Okay, sorry, I had to move my car again. Hello everyone and welcome to the Atcast. I'm your desire hunting kappa with a dark secret soup.
Oh, I don't want to be a kappa.
That's you know what? Those boys didn't either, but they didn't have a choice. They became kappas.
I have a choice. I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I don't want to go up
This
in
week,
anybody's
stands for-
butts. That's all. Just saying.
Listen, it comes with the territory, the absolute territory, which is what this week's at stands for, because we'll talk about the spring 2019 season. So buckle up, strap in, and let's get some allergy medication because my face is dying.
Is that what's happening with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, like, it's not just being ill, because otherwise it would mean that I have just been ill for a month, and I don't think that's happening. I think that a lot of these things that are happening to my body are just because of the warming of the environment, releasing pollen into the air and into my throat.
So have you gotten any allergy medication yet?
No, of course not.
Oh my freaking god.
So that's spring. That's what I have to deal with. But you know, it just kind of be like that. I'm also, and okay, we'll start the what have we been up to, right? Because last night my friend from Seattle came down to hang out here, and so we went to a tiki bar, which actually had some pretty good food. Surprisingly, I was pleasantly surprised at how good the food was. And then I had some fun drinks. There's a fun picture of me on Twitter, and then we went to my house and played Smash and drank more drinks, and now I'm here in the morning, sort of.
I'm not existing today.
Yeah, I'm not hungover because I downed pretty much an entire liter of coconut milk last night, but naturally I'm a little bit like not in tip-top condition as one is after a night of some amount of drinking.
Oh, well, I'm glad you had fun. I hope that you get allergy meds soon so that you can sound better.
Yeah, it's not been amazing for anything. My sinuses have been clogged and my throat has been somewhat sore. And
oh my God.
for persisting this long, I don't think it's just being sick. I think it's the fact that allergy season is here. Other than that, I went ahead and I bought that Futaba Nendo.
Yeah. It's cute.
Yeah, it's super cute, and the only unfortunate thing is that now that I've bought this, I have to buy the Riza Hawkeye Nendroid so that it pairs with my Roy Mustang one, and then I'll look like
you don't already have Riza.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Honestly, I just didn't. I kind of forgot to when she was being released, but yeah, it's gonna make me look like someone who buys lots of Nendroids when in reality I just like. You can't buy Roy Mustang without buying Riza Hawkeye. It's a crime.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had thought that you bought them as a pair.
No, because they came out in succession. Like they didn't come out at the same time. So I bought the Roy Mustang one in anticipation of the Riza Hawkeye one, and then I forgot to check when the Riza Hawkeye one was releasing. But I'll get around to it when I have some more money. But yeah, the Futaba one. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Other than that, I have been doing. I really don't think that there's anything I've been doing except for watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I started it maybe a week and a bit ago. I think a week and a bit ago, and I've gone from the beginning of the show for episode 1 of part 1 to being caught up.
So what inspired you to all of a sudden just dive face first into JoJo?
Well, so that's a good question because I think I had a little bit of free time, so I decided I would start watching part 1.
Okay.
And surprisingly, I didn't hate part 1.
Okay,
I know a
good.
lot of people have a lot of trouble watching part 1 and they have a lot of trouble getting into it, but I was kind of, I don't know, it was not immediately off-putting to me, and it was something that I could continue to watch.
Sure.
It helped that it was like a Netflix show because it has autoplay. Like, I think that's a big part of it.
Oh, I didn't know it was on Netflix.
The first 2 parts are on Netflix. So
Okay.
yeah, I started watching and it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly kind of liked what it was doing with part 1 too. Like,
Okay.
and I mean I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I can't do it because we'll just talk about it forever.
Yeah, I mean, we have a JoJo episode incoming, so
Yeah, so
in
I
which
mean,
we
we'll
will
save
divulge
it for
deeply.
we'll save it for that. I think I just managed to watch part 1, or at the very least, I was kind of just there for how like loose and wild it was going.
Sure.
Really,
Mhm.
like, because it's not like super concrete, other than like, here's Jonathan and here's Dio. Dio's a bad guy, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But they skip through a lot of time. Like, there's a lot of time skips, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It just wasn't offensive to me to watch. And then,
Yeah.
like, I was more than willing to watch another episode after having watched an episode. So, you know. And then, and then as soon as part 2 starts and I see what's happening with part 2, I'm like, I'm in it, right?
Yeah, you're
great.
in that Tomokazu Sugita.
Yeah, I love Sugita. So, my boy.
Yeah, I was definitely not expecting his voice to come out of that mouth, and I was just like, you know what? I'm here for it.
It's true. Yeah, part two was really good, and it was really what started to like heavily engage me in the show, because I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then like they have all of the like hints at what's to come in the later parts, where like they're using their powers to fight in creative and interesting ways. And like some of the times they're definitely like ass pulls, but like they're ass pulls in like a fun way, and in a way that's not like, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it's like, aha, I got you with my Deus Ex Machina. It's more like it feels believable.
Sure.
I think to some extent,
That's
especially
believable for a JoJo show.
right, as believable as it gets, and especially for JoJo's.
Yeah.
Like if you manage to sort of get into the headspace of JoJo's early, then you're gonna have a really wild ride with part 2.
Yeah.
Part two is great. It has I think one of the most iconic like themes of the show, like the opening theme, and also the Pillar Man theme, the one that the blares that's like when the dudes show up. Anyway, it's really cool. And then part 3 started, and like I was just like super into it, and I binged way through it. And then because of that, I was like, I need more JoJo's in my life. I can't just stop there.
So you just kept going.
So I watched part 4, which was very different.
Yeah.
And it felt much more like Persona 4, actually.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then I was like, cool. So I started watching part 5.
Yeah.
And
are you caught up in part 5?
I'm caught up on part 5. I watched the latest episode.
Nice.
Metallica Stan, the Stan Metallica is the stuff of nightmares. I hate that so much. It distresses me to no end. Anyway. But yeah, part 5 is good too. It is also definitely different, and I'm kind of concerned at how many limbs they lose.
Yeah.
They lose limbs all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they have a little more freedom because they do have an actual, like, healing stand, or regeneration stand, rather.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's what I felt about part 4, and then they really ramped it up in part 5. I was like, well, you don't have a healing stand anymore, do you? Oh, you do.
Exactly. Yeah, they were like, how about a more powerful healing stand so that we can do more stuff?
Yeah.
Push it.
There's some very interesting stuff that happens.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the way that stand battles get more and more complicated.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, JoJo's. I watched pretty much all of JoJo's, and I'm gonna start reading the manga soon.
Dope.
So, because I need to know what happens, and then I need to know what part 6 is like, and then I need to know what part 7 is like, and then I need to know what part 8 is like.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be sort of gone for the next couple of weeks. Just don't even yeah. All right, I think that's it. What have you been up to?
I finally had my first convention of the spring/summer. I went to Anime Boston, and it was expensive as hecky doodle because the registration was expensive, the plane tickets were expensive, the Airbnb was just like a lot. So I was like, well,
it's a big F.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm here mostly for the experience and seeing what it's like, because I heard it's a big convention and that it's actually pretty good if you can afford to go out there. And yeah, it was really awesome. The people there were super, super nice. My table neighbors were really, really awesome and supportive. And usually if you're tabling at an artist alley, I mean, you got like a handful of egos, but then everyone else is just like super cooperative and awesome, and they're just like, you want some food? You need a break at your table? I can watch it for you, like that kind of thing, you know? And so yeah, it was overall like a really, really nice experience. I met a couple of characters, as you do at these conventions, and so I had some interesting conversations. But I basically spent all last night on my Twitch stream just talking about it in great detail, so that's why I'm kind of like glazing over it now. But yeah, overall it was really good. I'm debating whether or not to go again next year, but I think if I do go again, I'd like to spend a little more time like sightseeing, because it was my first time in Boston, and like all of the spring trees were in bloom and everything, so the city looked really pretty, and then there's the waterfront right there too, and so it was really pretty to look at night. And I was like, I want to walk around this city, because they also have, like, of course they have like really old American architecture there too, so I'm like, I just want to look at the buildings and stuff. Yeah, so overall it was a fun time. I was dead tired afterwards, though, because the artist alley was the longest hours that I'd ever stayed at an artist alley, which was 12 hours per day except for Sunday. So I was like, man, this is so, like, I can't do this. I don't know how we survived, but you know what, we made it. So
well,
yeah, like one of my other friends in the artist alley came over. I didn't even know he was gonna be there, but we had tabled at similar conventions, like, because, you know, from when I lived on the East Coast, and he came over and he was just like, are you okay? Because I was so grumpy from like not leaving my table for a long time. I leave like maybe once or twice to like go use the restroom, but otherwise, like, I've got all my food there, and then I've been there from 10 a.m. and then we close at 10 p.m. But yeah, no, it ended up being fine. And yeah, I think that's basically it. Yeah, then I think the next time I'm going to a convention is at the end of May. And then I think I've got one once per month. And then I think August I got like 2. But yeah.
Man, convention season sounds exhausting.
It's really exhausting.
I don't know how you do it.
I've got it spaced out, but yeah, it's pretty tiring.
Listen, you gotta make a name for yourself so they pay for you to come.
Right. I don't know too many artists who get paid to come. Like, I mean, if you're a panel guest, that's one thing, but not so much if you're an artist.
Yeah, just become a panelist.
Just switch over and suddenly grow a lot of charisma and make people love me and just talk at them.
Well, I mean, Renu, I don't know how to tell you this, but like you're doing that right now.
No, I'm not sure how successfully that is.
Like I don't know how to tell you this, but if you're you know, like your whole thing here is just talking.
I know, but then I'm also producing art too. That's what makes me feel better about it, I guess.
Oh, okay.
It's like I can make up for my lack of talking skills by making nice art for the podcast. Easy.
Well, listen, I believe in you. I think you can do it.
Thanks, buddy. Hopefully we'll continue improving this cast and
all right.
With it, our talking skills.
Let's talk about anime.
Yo, spring 2019.
Yeah.
Bro.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think this is a quieter season actually than last season even.
I completely agree.
Because like thinking about it, there were some really good standout shows last season.
Yeah, like surprisingly so.
Surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Like, there was a solid core of things that I would like continue to watch.
Right, exactly. And this season it feels like there's just like maybe a handful of things that are like really explosive, and then everything else is just like middle of the road, kind of like, you know, like chill or like, you know, not super like on the edge of your chair kind of thing.
Yeah, you know what? It is a very like slice of lifey season, and I'm not sure why.
I don't know.
Oh well. Well, let's start by talking about One Punch Man Season 2.
Season 2!
So if you're not aware, Season 2 of One Punch Man is not by Studio Bones, but by JC staff. The director has changed and the staff has changed. Season 1 was actually by Studio Madhouse and not Bones. And so it looks different.
It looks very different.
It feels different too.
Yes, as you would expect from, like, you know, basically an entire different anime studio taking over the project. But the source material is the same, so you're going to get the same content. It's just going to be presented differently. And I think because people were so deeply in love with Season 1, when they heard about that for Season 2, it honestly didn't matter who was going to take over because people were going to riot.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people also don't really care.
I mean, one would hope. For me, the general feeling from people coming into Season 2 was I kind of am worried about it, / I kind of don't know if I want to watch it because it's not going to be the same. And then the other portion of people who are fans of One Punch Man were like, well, I'm going to give it a chance and see what it's like before I make any judgment calls. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you... Well, I actually never even watched the trailer for Season 2 because I was just like, I just want to go in with like a blind experience, right?
Oh, you did good doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, man, did I make the right decision because the public outcry after the trailer was fierce.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever wanted an example of how to not cut a trailer, then the One Punch Man Season 2 trailer is the prime example of it.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but for some reason it's like they took all of the worst parts of the animation and they decided to stick it in the trailer, being like, "Yeah, watch this."
Right, that's what I heard. Yeah, which was insane because it's like the animation itself, which I mean, I guess we might as well jump into talking about it. Is like it's good. Like it's obviously
bad.
not going to be Bones, but Bones had different priorities when they were, you know, because they had different specialties when they were animating One Punch Man. JC staff also has different priorities, different strengths that they play to by animating One Punch Man, and you get to see that while you're watching, right? Because for me, the animation focus on Season 1, which is very apparent, is that they put all of it into the action scenes, and then for the regular talkie talk scenes, it's very like low budget, kind of like wow, you're Saitama talking. Oh, there's a shot of Genos. Oh, there's a shot of the bad guy in multiple different angles as he goes on his tirade. And and then that's what makes the action scenes so fantastic. And then for JC staff, the way that they approached season 2 is, well, this show is like 80 to 90% talking, and then 10% of it is the action, right? And so they spread out their budget so that they could animate a lot of the secondary motion in the ordinary talking scenes. But then, of course, as a result, there's a cutback from the action scenes, which, you know, one might argue is the most important part, which was why people love the way that Bones did it. But at the same time, it's not like the action scenes even look bad, right? And overall, the style has a very different feel to it. Like, for Bones, they came up with like a very clean line art kind of style. Like, all of the focus is basically on the line art, and then you've got like the flat colors, and then, you know, it's a very sharp looking style. And then for JC staff, they have a very organic style. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but the line art for the characters it looks like it's hand drawn, right?
Yeah, see, I was gonna say fuzzy. It looks fuzzy.
I mean, it looks like I'm trying to think of an example. It looks I don't know. It looks honestly a little bit like Mob Psycho, right? Like, I feel like if you would compare season 1 of One Punch Man to season 2, whichever one of them would look more similar to Mob Psycho, I would say season 2 looks more like Mob Psycho. And there's also a larger focus on lighting and texturing with JC staff. So you'll notice like there's just like a very different kind of feel, because it doesn't feel like as quote unquote clean, right? It's not all just like cell shading and that kind of thing. It's they apply a lot of different kinds of textures to all the different objects going on. There's a lot of background work, right? And again, like they have a larger focus on lighting, so you can really feel like, oh, it's sunset, blah blah, like the city looks so pretty, the sun is setting, like that kind of stuff. So for me, the general impression for the animation specifically is that it's just an example of like, it's different but not necessarily bad. And I think it's a shame that the trailer was apparently cut so poorly that it highlighted all of the flaws of their animation style, because it's not obviously not going to lend itself as well to a trailer as something like the way that Bones animated it.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say about it is that I think I would tend to disagree. Like, I think I would say that the second season is not as good as the first season. Because the thing is, it's fine to have a different style and a different sort of focus, like different prioritization in terms of how you're making an anime, right?
Right.
But I feel like for me personally, the talking scenes don't stand out to me as particularly more interesting than Bones's in many respects. I think that the lighting is almost a little distracting sometimes. It kind of feels like they're doing it just because they can, and it makes it look better than it would otherwise, but only because it like, it almost feels like, you know, when you're like in middle school and you like use a cool texture or something on Photoshop so you don't have to actually make something look good. Which isn't to say that I think it's bad. I think that for people who liked the first season of One Punch Man generally, and, you know, who just want more One Punch Man, like, this is more One Punch Man. Like, you're gonna get more One Punch Man. It's more of one's story, which is, you know, really engaging and a large part of the reason that people like it in the first place. And it's not badly animated. Like, it's quite technically proficient. It is not Bones, right? And like, no one's Bones, but it is not as sharp. It's not as fluid. It's not as dynamic. And those are a lot of the reasons people like One Punch Man. And
Right.
and I'll say that that's not because of one even necessarily so much as it is because of Murata's redrawing of One Punch Man. I think that Bones' recreation of One Punch Man is like I think the adaptation is more closely aligned with Murata's like
Right.
redrawing
Yeah.
of One Punch Man.
Mhm.
And I think that the JC staff, like, I mean, I called it a fuzz because when I watch it, it doesn't feel like I can see it feeling like kind of more natural and organic to look at, but when I look at it, it just feels like fuzzy and not as well defined because the source material it's adapting is so sharply drawn. Like the art is so sharp, and
Right.
there's panels in and it's kind of a funny like sort of roundabout we've made here because people were actually complaining about the Bones adaptation of One Punch Man because the animation wasn't as good as Murata's because some of the panels in the manga adaptation of One Punch Man basically play like animation, and they're disgustingly gorgeous because Murata is just a wild man.
Right.
And yeah, I think that like you just have to go into it expecting it to not be as dynamic as one, because like there's that scene where Saitama jumps from King's house like outside, and if you compare that scene where he just kind of goes whee to the scene where Saitama is jumping from the moon in the first season, like you're gonna see a world of difference, and obviously these are of a different scale of like, you know, intensity. Like jumping off of a building is much different from jumping from the moon to Earth, but you can see the levels of you know like dynamics at play there. And I think that just all in all, like Bones is a lot better at adapting for anime. Like I think JC Staff is kind of just like a one-to-one recreation, whereas in Bones they do actually a lot of work to make sure that a lot of the stuff that happens in One Punch Man is translated visually. The moon scene specifically, right, is a good example of this, and people have brought this up where in the actual manga he's talking to himself in his head, like he's thinking, and there's like thought bubbles, and he's like you know, talking about the distance of the moon, the gravity, right? But in the anime he doesn't say anything, he just takes a rock, throws it up and down to see the gravity, and then he jumps. So there's a lot of work that goes into adapting for anime, like for the visual medium, that I don't think JC Staff does or really prioritizes. And I mean, like we have to talk about why One Punch Man season 2 isn't handled by the same studio or director. I mean, it's because obviously people want more One Punch Man, and I think that's like it's kind of like the monkey paw that's like curling here a little bit, because we're getting more One Punch Man and we're getting this story, and it's a really good arc. Like the Garo arc is a really great arc, but it's not going to be the same as people want. Like it's returned, but not the same as people remembered it. And I think arguably not as good because it not because it's like objectively worse, but I think because it doesn't do the things that One Punch Man was known to do as well. And
right, but we've also only watched one episode.
I think that's true, but I think you get a sense of what it's like when you watch the episode. Right,
you get a sense of it, but I also feel like, for me, some of the biggest flaws of season 1, again, which I loved, is that the majority of the episodes were really boring to watch. And it's only because the fight scenes were so over the top amazing that you end up leaving with a positive impression, like a more than positive impression, right? And so that's why I feel like for JC Staff, they kind of decided to spread it around a bit more so that at least visually you're more engaged throughout the episode versus for only the last 5 minutes, right?
I mean, yeah, but I feel like there is. I've gone into One Punch Man with a different sort of perspective. Is that I'm not there for action scenes necessarily. I'm there because I'm engaged with the material that it's grappling with, and I feel like even that to me, it is not as good at that.
Okay.
Right? I feel like it's just not as visually interesting to watch, even during the sort of boring talking scenes, because there are a lot of talking scenes. Like there's a lot of talking that goes on in the anime, even in season 1.
Yeah.
But to me, that's also part of it, and I like that too. So,
I mean, I do like it too, but I'm saying like visually, it wasn't very interesting to watch. Like content wise, it's of course fine because I like the story of One Punch Man and I like One's work. But I think visually, it's just like I like the way that JC Staff does those parts. Is because I'm at least getting eye candy while I'm listening to people talk at each other versus just watching like, you know, like same kind of lighting, like same very basic general lighting between these 3 characters or whatever that are always talking at each other.
I guess the difference is I don't find it particularly interesting to watch, like visually, any more so than season 1. To me, it doesn't feel like there's an appreciable improvement.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, also, to be fair, like, I mean, it is... We have only seen 1 episode, but, like, we are talking about JC Staff here. JC Staff, which is known for having lots of really boring, only mouth-moving talking scenes, and then putting all the budget into, like, the 1 action scene.
JC Staff?
JC Staff. I don't know. You've watched Food Wars, right? That's literally what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Food Wars and I've watched Toradora, but for me, they put a lot of effort into secondary motion too, is the thing.
I think Toradora is a different example, though. I feel like Toradora is, on average, better, ? They do still have that sort of same thing where it's a lot of people talking at each other. And then, and then they put the budget into, like, the really serious scenes, which I'm fine with. I think that plays well to how that show works. But I feel like when I watch Food Wars specifically, a lot of it is people just talking, and the talking isn't interesting to watch because it's literally just their mouths flapping.
Right.
And the angles aren't that interesting. So it might just be like a difference of director, right, from those shows, and it might be a difference of how they want to present this show. But, like, I mean, again, I don't find an appreciable improvement here.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, like, even in the first place, the only thing I really liked about, or I liked One Punch Man, but I much prefer Mob Psycho anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I think, I mean, there's some really great scenes in the first season of One Punch Man, especially for visual storytelling, but specifically, like, the Ocean King fight or whatever, that one was a really good one. That's a really good arc. And it's, I think that, I don't know, I'll have to wait and see, because it really depends on whether they can land the emotional beats that happen later in the arc.
Exactly. Like, we're doing a lot of judgment based on the first episode because it's like our little sampler of, like, okay, how's the rest of the season gonna be? Especially because it already does have, like, a small fight in it, and so we're like, okay, well, that's how the action's gonna be, I guess. But I am interested in seeing because like the story is going to have, like, a huge thing that happens in it, and so
I would honestly be okay if they just kind of glossed over the fighting a little bit more and, like, didn't even sort of attempt that, because from a fight direction standpoint, like, it's not okay. So even if you're not Bones, which is fair, because only Bones is Bones, I still don't think the fight direction in season 2 is good, actually. I think it's actually quite poor. Because there's that, you're right, there is a little scene where there's, like, a fight between Genos and the robot, and it's just not that fun to watch. Like, they're just kind of shooting lasers at each other from really boring shots and compositions and perspectives. Honestly, like the motion doesn't look that good. I would be okay if it was better and it was shorter, right? If they didn't try to, like, extend it. I mean, I get it. It's you need to fill the time and stuff. Yeah, I guess it's just like I think that for what it's worth, like even if they do put a lot of effort into like this sort of like talking scenes, if it's not if it if it's at the cost of all of the fight animation, then I don't know. I feel like there is a little bit of fighting in One Punch Man. That's like the whole point is the sheer difference between the like fight for your life that all the other heroes have with villains and monsters, and the sort of trivialness of that to Saitama. So I almost feel like, to me, like the boringness of the shots in season 1 kind of lends to it in contrast. And I think you were saying this too. I think you were saying that because of that, the action scenes really stand out. I honestly, I would say that the opposite is also true. I think that because the action scenes are so dynamic and the regular scenes are so plain, in contrast, I think that actually that helps to like set the tone. I think that helps to set the tone of
sure, I can
when
see that. Yeah,
Saitama is there versus when he's not.
Right.
I don't know. I think it stands to be seen. Like, I think we'll have to watch the rest of the season to really get a sense of it. Sure. The portents from what I'm looking at in episode 1 suggest to me, like what I'm gonna feel about it. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna like it as much, but I mean, I think that's fine. Honestly, it's more One Punch Man. I liked One Punch Man. I'll watch it.
Right. Okay, so next we have Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is another shonen action glory fest. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's animated by UFO Table. And they do actually a really good job with it. I was rather shocked because I looked at the art style. I was just like, okay, this will be interesting to see, animated. And I think they do well. I mean, there's like, and we pointed this out like frequently while watching it, but there's like really like, they try to like sneak in all sorts of CG.
Oh my God.
In there.
They try to sneak in CG so often, and like, okay. All credit. It's UFO Table, right? So the CG is actually really good, and if it's was fine. Like, I mean, for CG, it's really good. And
for CG,
if you were
good,
if you were watching,
overall, it's fine.
If you were watching from a distance, you might be able to not tell. Like if you like squinted a little bit.
Yeah, it's fine for like a seasonal anime, which if they're producing it week to week kind of thing, then it's actually quite good.
And they have like, I mean, to be fair, like they probably have just tons of CG budget.
Yeah, and they like, I feel like they choose fine enough moments. Like they choose moments where it's like you only need like a quick shot of it, or if it's like bamboo things falling down or whatever, or like a bird in the corner.
Yes. Oh my God, the bird. Hey, look at that bird.
We had to rewind. We were like, "Was that a CG bird?" Like, yeah.
It super was. Yeah, they sneak CG in all over the place, but it's in places where you would expect to see CG. Like it's in places where there is a lot of like it's very quick motion, and it doesn't. The camera doesn't hang for a long time. So even though it's CG, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, exactly.
You'll process that it's CG, but it doesn't feel like it's there for no reason. It doesn't feel like it's
right,
obtrusive.
Exactly. You recognize that it's CG and immediately you're like, okay, I understand why they did it, and then
speaking of someone who has seen Goblin Slayer, like boy, there is a world of difference between the use of CG in that and Kimetsu no Yaiba. It's actually ridiculous.
Yeah. But yeah, we haven't actually talked about what the show is about.
No, because the CG is important.
It's really important.
It's about like sort of ancient feudal. I don't know if it's somewhere in like Japan, like some kind of Japanese setting. It's not. I'm fairly certain it's like pretty on the line between like Like just imagine that it's on the line of the 19th to 20th century, probably.
Right.
At least that's what I think. It might be earlier, but it doesn't really matter because it's more of a fantasy story anyway.
Right.
So, it's not necessarily one-to-one. Anyway, it is about a boy who lives with his family, and then his family gets eaten by demons because the demons come out at night and eat your family. And his sister has turned into a demon, and he's but she's somewhat in control of her demonness enough to not like eat his face off immediately, and so he ventures off on a journey to join the demon hunting corps so that he can figure out how to turn her back into a human. So basically, and also to get revenge for the rest of his family. So basically, it's like Attack on Titan, but if it wasn't written by a weird fascist.
I mean, it's basically another Shonen Jump story, which we all know the Shonen Jump story, right? It has a certain pacing, it has a certain amount of content that like it has certain emotional beats that it hits in.
Oh, for sure.
You could tell like it's almost formulaic, right? The way that these works that get approved for Shonen Jump are, right? Mm-hmm. And so it follows that, but at the same time, there's a reason why they're so popular, and so the execution is good.
I think the execution of it is the reason why it's so popular. It is. Yeah. It's a tried and true formula for sure, but it's still good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I would also mind it.
I mean, like they have a lot of the progression of it as like thing happens when kid is young, kid shows promise, kid goes to trainer to train 2 years later. And I've just summed up the first 3 episodes. And when you boil it down like that, it doesn't sound very interesting. But because of the work that goes into the like the characterization and the story and especially the animation, it is actually really good to watch. Like it's really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it's exciting.
Honestly, I was surprised at how quickly I got attached to these characters.
Right. Yeah.
Because after like an episode, I was like, "Oh, I'm here for this. Like, I want to see these kids go on their adventure. Where are you going, kids?" And
where are we going, kids?
Where are we going, kids? I was really surprised because the animation, aside from the CG, is actually really good. Yeah. I mean, obviously, UFO table. Like, come on, it's UFO table. But it has this show has no joke one of the best anime fight scenes, like one of the best sword fight scenes I've seen in a long time.
I was like shocked at how good it was. I was like, what the heck?
Like there was like camera angles and rhythm and choreography, and it legitimately felt like a sword fight in the best way possible. Yeah. Which is more than I can say for a lot of stuff that I've been watching, I guess. I mean, sure. Yeah, like aside from Mob Psycho and their like psychic battles, like I'm hard pressed to think of like a really really intense like nice action scene. But Kimetsu no Yaiba really delivered.
Good action scene, and I was just like, wow,
It was
I'm
just
stunned.
solidly done. It was so good.
Yeah, it was solid. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is for sure a you can call it a formulaic show. Because it's based off a formulaic manga. I mean, okay. As far as formulaic stuff goes, you'll probably like it better than you like Black Clover.
You say as someone that has both watched the anime and read the manga and has praised the manga.
Manga's much better because it uses the tropes to elide time. Anyway, yeah. I think that Kimetsu no Yaiba is executed really well. I think it's a really solid show. Yeah. And definitely watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I would say maybe do the first 3 episodes because then you'll get in actually the fight scene that we're talking about.
You'll get a feel for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I liked it. So next, we have Furuba, or Fruits Basket 2019, which everyone should know about Fruits Basket.
I mean,
point.
everyone should be aware that Fruits Basket exists.
Exactly. Even you youngins that were born like after its existence, like ought to know that it exists.
Yeah, I mean it is a classic, a masterpiece of shoujo drama.
It's funny because it has like the wildest premise, right? Of like, okay, this is very like, you know, shoujo from a couple decades ago. Of like,
yeah, it super is.
Like you know, girl. You don't know what happened with her father, but she was raised by her mom, and in her single mom household, her mom passes away, and so she's having to fend for herself. She literally lives in a tent in the wilderness, and she gets found or stumbles upon this household where everyone in the family, if they are hugged by someone of the opposite gender, then they transform into their respective zodiac animals. And you're like, WTF. And then you end up watching / reading it, and you are stunned by how well it hits every single one of its emotional beats, despite how silly it is.
Yeah. Fruits Basket is definitely emblematic of the time that it comes from. There was like a period in like the late 90s to early 2000s where every shoujo had like a weird magical realism element to it. And then all of the boys transformed into something, or had some magical element to them, or maybe sometimes it was isekai and the girl gets transported to like feudal Japan and has to fuck Oda Nobunaga.
Good times.
Good times. Yeah. It is such a blast from the past to watch this in the year of our Lord 2019.
Oh my god, when we were watching it, there were so many times when I was giggling because I was like, man, I took this seriously back then, but now it's just
exactly. Like you recognize now that it's still a little silly, and it clearly recognizes that it's a little bit silly, but it still manages to hit hit its emotional beats, which is nice. It's a very classic style of show, and honestly, it's kind of nice that we're getting remakes of stuff that came out, when I was starting to watch anime, right? Because now that's the previous generation of stuff that we have to remake.
Right. And I've heard people describe this as like they're pulling a Brotherhood on Fruits Basket, where
for sure.
Exactly, because the anime kind of got ahead of the manga, and then it had to end it its own way / not really end. And now they're revisiting it, and they're sticking closer to the source material. The style's a little more updated, because technology is different now. And so honestly, it does look really pretty.
It does, it looks great.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see all these old shoujo tropes get brought back to life.
I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this and hear you scream.
I was dying. Oh man. Yeah, I love Fruits Basket. The first time that I watched Fruits Basket was my friend was just like having us like we were just having a sleepover at her place like for the weekend, and she had us binge the entirety of the anime in 2 days.
Oh my god.
It was so much. So this is a much more, I guess, refreshing pace that I could just ease into it.
That's fair. Yeah. I think the sensibilities around making anime has changed over the years. Yeah. And I'm glad that when we get remakes, they tend to be like, okay, well, let's like do the whole thing over and fix the anime only ending that we made.
Right.
And it gives me hope that maybe one day they'll do that for Ouran High School Host Club.
Oh my god, I would love it. And see, the thing is that the anime was fine. Like, I liked the anime, but the content that comes after, like, where the anime stops with the manga, is so good.
It's so good. It's always the best part of the series. And this is, I think, true for a lot of shoujo too. I think that a lot of shoujo really suffered from the serialized format, where they were just like, here's the thing, it's a much easier to make filler for Dragon Ball than it is to make it for a shoujo drama.
Yeah, you can't. It's hard because Dragon Ball, you can have people like trash talk each other for 5 million episodes. But
you can also just have like a random dude come in and they fight, and then he doesn't matter anymore.
You can make up dudes to fight and stuff, but then for shoujo, it's kind of like, okay, well, you got to make up conflicts, but then also like because it's so hyper focused on the emotional impacts of everything, like you kind of either have to not acknowledge that had an emotional impact, or kind of like have that not canon character be there till the end.
Yeah, it's why shoujo so often has to just take an anime only route.
Yeah. Yeah,
because they just couldn't do it otherwise.
Adapted into anime or incompletely adapted.
But yeah, that's exciting. You know, Fruits Basket. If you liked it, you'll like it. If you didn't like it, well, you probably won't watch it. So I mean, I'm not going to convince you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you like shoujo drama, I mean, this is it, man.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
Fruits Basket.
It's not like it has its heavy moments, but it's generally a more lighthearted shoujo, which is why I could tolerate it, because it's not always, you know, people sobbing at each other. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Robihachi.
Robihachi. So
Robihachi is a story about a man named Robbie who is just the worst. He doesn't do anything. That's not true.
He's your very typical, like, womanizing, only wants to drink kind of dude, trying to get by in life.
I mean, he's okay. He's a dude who has no money. He's a reporter writer, and he has no money because he keeps getting scammed by women into like pyramid schemes, basically. Yeah. And he never learns.
Yeah.
And then another guy shows up, and his name is Hachi. Robihachi. And basically he at some point in the episode he becomes a bounty hunter working for whoever that guy is, voiced by Tomokazu Sugita, and then comes to arrest Robbie for his debts, and then they escape to space together, and then they turn into a giant robot to fight the bounty hunting ship that is coming after them. Okay, so here's the thing about Robihachi, is that it's really, really boring.
It's, it feels like they didn't, they had the content, and then they just didn't arrange it well, right?
No, the episode dragged on for so long, nothing interesting happened until the last 2 minutes of the show, at which point something interesting happened.
Exactly. It felt like they were like, okay, we have to save the spaceship robot scene for last so that we can end off on like a big banger, right? And so then they had to just filler the rest of the episode. And it's so sad to watch because the character design is beautiful. The world looks really interesting. And the premise is fine, right? You got two dudes that they decide that they're gonna go to space together, and there's a little bunny robot. It's cool, and yet the amount of like they just like very barely like skimmed like the most superficial level of this show, and I feel like it could be so good, but the fact that they just had to pad for most of their first episode, which the first episode should be your impression of the rest of the season. If they're gonna skim so superficially from the get-go, it's just like, what are you doing turning away your viewers like this? Right?
Yeah,
like,
it's weird because it feels like they're adapting something that they know that they're gonna like run out of, like something that's serialized weekly, but it's an original show, so you're not going to.
So they're not beholden to anything. They should be able to just fill it with whatever kind of content that they want. And it's not like the actual, like, it just feels like the way that they executed was just so poor, because the actual content itself, it's like, okay, you meet Roby, okay, he has a run-in with Hachi, they, I don't know, they have like lunch together or something, and then you get to learn a bit more about Roby and how he gets he gets into these pyramid schemes with these women, and then there's a bit of a chase scene when it gets revealed that, you know, Hachi's gonna go after him, and then you meet Tomokazu Sugita, who's like a very rainbow man, and then they have a fight in the end with the mech and the spaceship. And yet the execution
Yeah.
like all of it was there. All of the content, all of the visual design, everything was there, and I just don't understand.
You know, okay, it feels okay, so we should bring up now that it's by the director who did Gintama, and
Yes.
it feels like really old Gintama, like episode
Yeah.
3 Gintama.
Right, exactly. It because the director he did like the first 102 episodes, I think, of Gintama. Unfortunately, like half of those episodes, as in 1 through like 50, were like this, right? They were not interesting. And we say this as fans of Gintama. The first 50 episodes were extremely uninteresting.
No, I only watched them because they were kind of funny. And the thing about Robihachi is I don't think that, at least to me personally, none of the humor of it really landed. It doesn't feel funny to me.
Right.
Like it's not quite as out there as Gintama was. It has a very similar setting too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing that it'll hopefully get better later on as they get more into because now they're actually in space, right?
Now they're actually in space.
And now they can make comments about like mech anime in general now that they have a mech. So
yeah, supposedly it contains a lot of references to mech anime.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But also like your show has to also be interesting.
Yeah, and if you're gonna go that route, then do so from the get-go. Like, I don't know if maybe we missed any mecha anime references that were there from this episode.
I think the only one that I noticed was that the robot they transformed into is just Mazinger, but with a mustache.
Right, exactly. And that was at the end.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. We just kept watching. I was just like, we're not done yet? Maybe
it's like super deep cuts of mech anime. Because maybe it picks up in the second episode. Like, we've only watched one episode.
Exactly.
And we couldn't really bring ourselves to watch another one because the first one was so off-putting.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that this is for mech anime fans because it is by the director of Gintama, and I mean, I'm pretty sure it's produced by Sunrise, isn't it? And like, they're the Gundam people.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna get a lot of Gundam.
You're gonna get a lot of mileage out of that if you're really into it. But
exactly.
Maybe episode 2 is better. Like, maybe I'll go watch it.
I'm hoping
it
is. Yeah.
But episode 1 was really boring.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they could have done better in terms of like pacing it better, or like maybe diving a little bit more into it, or I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I would say give the first 2 episodes a watch.
Yeah, don't stop at the first episode. Try to move on to the second episode and see if it gets better.
Like, I think 2 episodes is about what you need to feel out the show. I don't think you need to go the whole 3.
Yeah. Then again, we went 50 into Gintama, or at least I did before I felt it.
I was pretty into it, honestly. I liked Gintama from chapter episode 30-ish.
Okay.
Just because I started to really get into the jokes, and I really enjoyed it as just like a gag comedy until it actually introduced plot elements.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, it's one of those things where like I seem to have less trouble with some of these long running shows getting into it in the beginning.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, especially if it's like a comedy anime, or like the comedy the comedy just didn't start landing for me until like 50 episodes in. I don't know why. If maybe I got used to it, or maybe it finally hit a note that I liked. And then for action, it's just like, well, I have to like the action, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, a lot of Gintama's humor comes from really Japanese deep cuts.
Yeah,
like a lot of them are
exactly.
very specific Japanese references. Like they reference
Right.
lots of Japanese politicians and
Right.
and stuff, and like that's probably part of it. It's like it's kind of
Probably. Yeah.
for somebody who did not grow up in that space. It's very dense. Like it's very information dense, and it can be really hard to actually get any of the jokes. But once you start getting them, because they do bring some back, once you start getting them, it's really funny.
Yeah, exactly. I think also when maybe around that point is when the humor broadens less to very Japan specific stuff to just like more like, okay, this is kind of like this is the kind of humor that people would enjoy regardless.
Yeah, it opens up into some more gag comedy that kind of anybody
Right.
can really get into. Because
Right,
I think
exactly.
a lot of Gintama's comedy is very like, you know, Tsukomi. It's very like funny man, straight man.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really develop that really specific flavor of Gintama until
Yeah.
like about 50 or so episodes in.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so Robihachi has a Gintama director, Gintama voice actors.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say it's
hopefully
like it's basically just Gintama except they changed all the faces and then like swapped all the voices around.
Yeah. I'm hoping it'll be good because I know a lot of people who like mech anime, and I think it's time we give them something nice.
I mean, that's true. It's been a little bit.
It's been a while.
It's been a little bit.
I mean, we had Gridman, which was fine.
Gridman was pretty
It was
good. I think
Yeah.
Gridman was a much more interesting like mech reference show.
Right, but that was less about like mech and space and more of like, you know, giant
I mean,
monsters and...
Robihachi is definitely calling to like the sort of influence on Gintama, like the sort of space opera adventure in space sort of thing.
Right.
But it still stands to be seen whether it actually executes on any of that.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see on that one. That one's a question mark. Yeah. So next we have Senryuu Shoujo, which is a shoujo, obviously, about a girl who communicates through writing and a boy who looks like a delinquent, but he's actually very sweet.
Yep.
And that is very much a a popular Moe Gap kind of ship thing with a lot of people. So if this is exactly your alley, then the show is probably your thing. For me, I really like the dynamic, but I'm not a fan of really, really slow slice of lifey kind of romancy shows. They have to like, I don't know, there just has to be a very specific kind of way that they go about it that would appeal to me. For this one, it feels like a little too slow. I don't know. For me, personally. But I think the pacing is fine for the story in itself, right? I actually think it's perfect. I just think it's not made for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts about it?
I like it. I think it's cute. I wasn't expecting it to be as lighthearted as it was. I thought it was going to be like at least a little bit more serious. But no, I mean it's only 10 episodes. It's only 10 minutes an episode. It is.
Yeah, it's short.
It's a very soft show. Like it's very slow and steady. It's not. I don't know if I would classify it as boring. I just think it's slow. Exactly.
It's not boring. It's just slow, and I feel like they deliberately make it that way so that it stays very lighthearted and, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it is a good sort of. I mean, I don't want to call it a filler show, but like when you want to watch something that's just kind of slow and slice of lifey, like this is a really good option.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's cute.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So next we have Shoumetsu Toshi.
Or Afterlost, as it's called in English.
Yeah, Afterlost. Man, we had a lot of things to say when we were watching this.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh.
Okay, so it is based on a mobile game And I
don't know if it's necessarily bad.
It's not bad.
It's just it wasn't for us. For
well,
both of us.
I don't think it was for. I don't think it's for anybody really. Here's the thing about it is that I think it's fine. Like I think it's solidly okay because there's some things about it that are kind of interesting. Right. The premise, I'm not like. I'm ambivalent about the premise because I like the idea of like, oh, it's a mystery thing about like a whole city that disappeared except for one person, right?
Right.
I think that's interesting. I think that some of the directing is a lot better than the animation will initially imply.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that it feels like more like a thriller show, like sort of an action thriller.
Oh my god, the action in this show.
Even though the action itself is not super hot. Okay.
Holy cow.
Basically what I see here is there are inklings of good things. Like there are seeds of good things in this show that are clearly held back by some aspect of production.
It felt to me like they were trying to cram every single action movie that they've ever seen coming out of Hollywood into at least one episode, right? I think we only watched one, if I remember correctly. Like, it went on for a while, it felt like, so I can't even remember.
The pacing is kind of a mess, but I will say, I'm so intensely curious because there's that scene where she summons her stand, who's that dude, and he's just like it's a normal guy in a suit, and then he starts summoning machine guns.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of guns surround him, almost like Mommy, but they're floating right there, and then he just
shoots them, and it's honestly hilarious to look at.
Yeah.
Teki no stando.
And he's firing at a monk.
Yeah, and the monk has like psychic powers. I don't know. This isn't the direction that I would have taken a story about a lost city, but I mean, if it had better animation, I think it honestly might have been a better watch. A lot of it is really held back by some aspect of production. Like if you see the chase scene on the moped, where it's like everything is CG, and you're like, oh no, oh dear. I mean, okay, I do agree. I think with what you're implying here, and I think that a part of it is like a pacing issue. I think that there's a lot of pacing issues here.
Yeah, I think it's also a bit of content, right? In terms of like the like every 5 minutes it feels like someone's smashing through glass or like flying off a building or like I don't know, like when you have like an action movie, it's not that you have to like make everything action. It's just that the parts that you do put action in feel meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And are the focus. And then for this, it's just like if you have action all the freaking time, it's exhausting. I was exhausted after we finished watching this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not good at the very least. I wouldn't recommend watching it to anybody really.
I would have a hard time recommending it. I would say it's quite fun to watch it with your friends. Like we had if you just want time watching,
so you know, roast it for a bit. Yep.
Yeah, maybe if you're a fan of the original IP that it's based on, then you might have more investment in it, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and again, the premise is quite interesting, like you said. Like there's something there in terms of the mystery aspect of it, but I think they focused on.
Yeah, I'm also always disappointed in shows that don't keep the like weird art style of their source material. It has an
interesting art style, yeah.
I think the original mobile game has a very interesting art style, which is like super, but then they get translated into like really, really sort of bog standard anime protagonist character.
Yeah, it has a lot to, like, it's kind of like, I don't know. I had a hard time watching a lot of old Clamp anime, like anime based on Clamp works, because their art style is quite difficult to translate into anime.
Yeah, yeah.
Until like the most recent stuff. The most recent stuff feels like it's a lot easier to do so, but back then, oh my gosh.
I mean, that's because Clamp has sort of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It is hardcore Clamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the difficulties in translating, especially for a production pipeline that is geared towards like, serialized anime.
Right.
Like it will be really hard to get your animators who are used to animating normal character, like sort of standard anime characters, to like suddenly be like, well, here, have these weird things. That's why I feel like there's so few shows that come out that are like original shows that have really unique art styles. I think it's just a production issue. Like I think
right,
that
exactly.
even if they wanted to, like, it is really hard for them to pull it off, which is why I think that Studio Trigger is really like a great studio for that kind of thing. Like I think that they put out a lot of anime that looks very unique, and so does like Bones and Madhouse sometimes too.
Yeah, Madhouse I would say too. Yeah.
Like it's these like really big name studios, but like I mean,
right.
Actually, I think this show is technically produced by Madhouse.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, it just
have to look it up now.
It just goes to show you that a studio isn't necessarily everything. It is the people who work at it on it in the studio.
Right, and I wonder if because it felt like they were jamming so many elements into one thing. Yeah, it is by Madhouse. Freaking A. Well, they don't always make great stuff, but when they do, it's
true.
It's great.
It's true.
But yeah, I wonder if because like I said, like it felt like they were just like smashing a bunch of action segments together, that because it was first a mobile game, that this kind of pacing is fine in a mobile game, because a mobile game is a lot slower because there's like grinding in between, right? But then if you're gonna take all of the story elements and mash it all together into one without like adapting it properly, like making certain creative decisions that would make it feel better as an anime, then it will feel less like watchable.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be trouble porting stories from one medium to another. I think it could have been done a lot better, and it's kind of a shame. I mean, I can't speak for most of the content because we've only watched one episode, but it's not the direction that I would take a city being lost in, but I can't deny that it's somewhat interesting, the mystery.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be willing to watch it for the mystery.
I'm not.
I do like the
going
mystery. To. Yeah,
I think there's seeds of something good here that just have not been properly tended to.
It feels very, at the same time, it feels very cliche. You've got like the mysterious girl. She's the sole survivor of this thing that happened, and no one knows what's going on. And she's on her quest to find her missing father, but she has to be protected by this action hero protagonist dude who doesn't really want to be an action hero. He's just a dude, but he somehow manages to protect her quite well. And then he has an otaku friend who like gets him all the tech stuff that he needs, and then so on and so forth. But yeah.
Let's talk about Sarazanmai.
It's time, y'all.
It's time. So Sarazanmai is the story of a couple of kids, 3 of them to be exact, and they accidentally break a statue of a big kappa in Asakusa, and then they become kappas.
Yep. You might be surprised at how this all develops, and believe me, you will be even more surprised when you watch it.
Anyway, so Sarazanmai is... it's a lot of things. And to just sort of... okay, let's... To put this into sort of context, let's contextualize this a little bit. Let's contextualize this.
There's a reason why we're at a loss here, but yes.
So the directors of this show are Kunihiko Ikuhara and Nobuyuki Takeuchi. And they're known for various things.
Yes.
But Ikuhara specifically has done directing for Sailor Moon.
Yep.
Mawaru Penguin Drum.
That's the one.
And Yurikuma Arashi, as well as Utena.
Yep.
So if that gives you an idea of what this show is like, congratulations. If it doesn't, I'll tell you right now, it's weird, it's transgressive, and it's surreal. And that's putting it lightly.
There's a lot of creative storytelling and metaphors that go into this anime that is apparently about people establishing connections with each other.
Yup.
But it's expressed through metaphors that involve many, 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 many butts. Children going into butts, children leaving butts, children transforming into kappas and then being squeezed out of a kappa's butt. I mean, there's just like, it's a little uncomfortable.
Just lots of butt stuff.
Yeah, and I don't like the fact that it's all the butt stuff with the kids, and I just, like, I don't know whether they're trying to, like, play on a line of, like, oh, but kids love butt stuff, like they think butts are funny, you know, like, and not in the terms of, like, oh, kids should not like butt stuff, this is inappropriate, right? But then, on the other hand, they have these two adult male cops who are very much into the butt stuff, and I'm not sure. I keep, every time we watch more, I'm even more at a loss on how I feel about this show. Aside from the fact that I absolutely hate how beautifully animated it is. It is actually upsetting me.
it is upsetting you because you feel so many things and you don't know how to process them. Okay, so the thing about Sarazanmai is that it is like if Yokai Watch was only about kappas and was for adults and not for children, even a little bit.
And yet, the features like 3 children. They're 14/15. Oh, they're children.
I mean, to be fair, so this is a part of like kappa mythology where they have like they explained it in the first episode, but they do a thing where they like go into your butt and they take your things. In your butt. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I think it comes with the territory of trying to do a show about yokai, about supernatural creatures that isn't for kids, isn't aimed at kids. And I think that it is. I mean, I would say that I
but if it's not aimed at kids, why would you make the 3 protagonists kids? Like.
Well,
they could just have easily made it older. I don't know.
I actually disagree with that. I don't think that's true. I think that the reason it works for like the reason the conceit of the show works is because they're kids, and it's because they're going through this like really turbulent time in their lives when they're trying to figure out their emotions. And I mean, like as much as like, you know, it's kind of an uncomfortable thing to say, like there is an aspect of, you know, when you're that age, you are also discovering your body. And I think that's important to think about. Like, I think it is beyond the surface level of like, oh, look, the 14-year-old boys get their butts poked by a kappa, right? I think that there's like a legitimately, because it is, the way that it's animated is, I think, meant to make you a little bit uncomfortable. It's not in, like, 100%, it's not in a way that's, like, titillating at all, right? It is not in a way that is exploitative. It is almost comical, but in a way that does make you feel slightly uncomfortable. Because, and I think that this is kind of the point of the show, because when you have that, it gives a very visceral physical sensation of discomfort and invasion, right? And I think that's kind of one of the core themes of the show, as far as I've seen it, is this idea of like, you know, connecting to people, which means, you know, seeing into
their butts.
No, seeing into like the private parts of themselves, which have, you know,
yeah, their butts. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So they stare at each other's butts. No, I mean this is a very clearly subversive show. It's a very transgressive show. There is, in the first episode, one of the boys is revealed to be somebody who cross-dresses so that he cross-dresses as the idol of the town or the city so that he can take selfies and send them to his little brother, who thinks that it has a special friendship with the idol of the city. Yeah. Which is immediately kind of like, okay. But then it goes further, and it sort of gets more and more tangled, and and mind you, this is not a spoiler-friendly podcast. We are going to spoil this, so you know. The
first 3 episodes were what we watched, so.
We only watched the first 2, actually.
Oh, did we? Oh, that's right. We only saw the preview for the third one. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And at the end of the second episode, one of the 3 boys, the crossdresser boy, is falls asleep in public, and one of the other 3 boys.
Well, but that's the preview for the third episode, though. Is the thing.
I don't think it's a preview. I think that's just that's the end of the episode.
Really? I thought it was a preview because they didn't explain anything. I don't know.
Well, no, obviously they're not going to explain it because that's what the next episode's going to be about. But like, it's like the teaser scene at the end of a Marvel movie, right?
So it was a preview.
No, it's not a preview. It's a bonus scene.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Because it's still part of the episode. Like it's supposed to be like because didn't they have an actual like sort of preview scene? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The boys kiss.
Yeah, but they don't have any explanation behind it, so you don't know what is going on, right? Are the boys actually kissing? Is there some weird kappa crap going on?
Oh, no,
why is he kissing him?
No, hang on. They are kissing. Like it is explicitly on screen.
You are basing this off of like a little bit of a teaser, okay? We don't know any of the situation. I'm not saying this as like a denial of the boys kissing. I'm saying like because it is such a subversive show that I can't trust a little teaser. I can trust the fact that we watched an entire episode of this boy and the other boy holding hands for the entirety of the episode, right?
They did in fact hold hands.
Yeah. And it would make sense that if it escalated in a way like, oh, now this boy and the other boy are kissing for some reason.
Well, but, okay, so here's the thing though, is I don't think that this is the kind of show that pulls like a gotcha. Like as much as it is weird and surreal and bizarre, like it to me has never come across as something that would just be like, just kidding. Like I feel like that's going to be vitally important to the next episode. I think there's really something to think about there. I mean, because it's. I mean, let's qualify this here. Like, one of these boys is unconscious. Like, this is not sort of a consensual arrangement that's happening, and I think that's part of it, right? I feel like that's going to be.
If they decide to explore this route, then I will be interested in seeing how they go about it because, again, these boys are like dealing with a lot of feelings and such. Right. And
I mean, that's why I think that it's important that they're like 14-year-olds or like, it's an Evangelion turning point.
I think the initial discomfort is difficult to overcome, but at the same time, it should be a part of the experience. Like, you should feel uncomfortable that they're doing all this stuff as 14-year-olds, but at the same time, that's when stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean that is when a lot of it's a very like important part in the development of like people.
Yeah,
like it is a part when you're
at the very least, right? At the very least, it's between other 14-year-olds and not like an adult being
right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's clear that it's not visually speaking, the language of it is not exploitative. It is explorative.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I honestly think this might be like one of the best shows to come out this season. Like even beyond the fact that it's just gorgeous.
It is so stupidly gorgeous.
Yeah, it's ridiculously pretty. We were initially interested in the trailer for this because the trailer uses photographs of real life and then has like animated stuff over it, which is really, and we were wondering if that was the way the show was going to be animated. It's not, but there is kind of a level of that. And like, there is so much going on in the show. It's such a like thematically dense show because, I mean, they live in a weird sort of future Japan Asakusa, except there's Amazon boxes flying everywhere. Yeah. And there's an idol that speaks to everybody and tells them what their lucky item of the day is. I'm so mind boggled and interested to see where this is going to go. And I think that the surrealism of it also is definitely part of that. And I think that's why the discomfort is there, because you're displaced. I think
it's compelling. Yeah.
I think it's affecting. Yeah. It's not only, visually displacing because it's so surreal to look at. It's also, emotionally displacing because you do feel that immediate just sort of like, oh, those are boys. Like those are little boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's very purposeful at the very least, right? And again, man, I don't know. But I do think that the themes that it's kind of hinting at grappling with are pretty interesting, right? Like the whole like Amazon box thing. There's obviously like Amazon's the thing right now. That's the big commercial thing going on. And it does explore like how people like the very first episode shows like the antagonist or whatever has such an over dependence on the Amazon box, right? He just wants to be in the box, doesn't want anything else to do except be with the boxes. And I think that speaks a lot to like, like a very, I guess like on the nose kind of comparison to how people treat commercialism and whatnot and Amazon in general. And also like the whole idol foretell, like she's kind of like a horoscope idol, right? Like she'll tell you your how things are going to be for you on that day. And the main character very obviously has such a huge overdependence on her. And that's also very telling of people nowadays too. Like they have an overdependence on people telling them what they can look forward to in the day kind of thing.
Right,
and
exactly.
Rather than like drawing that from themselves, they'll rely on someone else, like that kind of thing. Yeah, so I think the themes that it's grappling with are interesting, and I really loved the other works that this director has done, so mostly Utena, but
I mean, the other works this director has done are all transgressive, gay, visually very pretty. So I mean, I'm expecting more of that, and it seems to be delivering on that. I'm really curious to see where it goes because the thing about it is the way that the show is animated and the setting of it feels very dystopic in a way. There's a kind of like oppressively commercial element to the setting of it. Like, it almost feels like aside from the main characters, like people are only vaguely real. And I think part of this is the way that they abstract some of this, where sometimes instead of showing crowds of people, they'll show like cardboard cutout like walk sign people like going to and fro. Yeah, I'm super interested in this. I really, really want to see where it goes. I'm definitely keeping up with this.
Yeah, we'll be keeping up with it. I will be more and more confused as we go on. My head will hurt. It'll be fine, I guess.
It just, it'd just be like that. I really think that this is something that deserves a rewatch after.
Yeah, for sure. I think after all is said and done, it will need a rewatch to be able to understand what's going on. Because that's how I processed Utena at the very least. Because the first time I watched it, I was just like, I was too confused to understand anything. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I see. Yep. All right. Let's talk about how Carole Tuesday is stuck in Netflix limbo.
Yeah, how about we talk about how we cannot talk about Carole Tuesday.
We can't talk about it because we haven't watched it because it's licensed by Netflix, which means what they'll do is they'll release it after all the episodes are out subbed, and
Yeah.
then and like they'll release it. How do I say this? After everyone's done talking about it.
Yeah, so you can probably, if you want to watch it now, you'll have to do so illegally, which we do not, we're not.
I mean, we don't condone or endorse that.
Exactly. So we're not saying it's impossible to watch it right now, but we're saying right now we can't talk about it because we can't watch it through the means that we would like to.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there is something to be said about a lot of things here as like this ever atomized stratification of streaming service licensing means that you have to go sub to like 4 different places.
I know.
To actually watch all the anime that you want to. And even then it's not enough to watch like all the anime because some of it still falls through the cracks. And then like Netflix especially is terrible. If for no other reason than okay. So one of Netflix's greatest strengths is its bingeability due to its autoplay feature, right?
Yes.
It's really easy to watch a lot of episodes at once.
Yep.
That is also the reason why it is the worst platform to license serialized anime, because they want to do that with anime as well, and they don't, I guess, realize that that's not the best way to get that done. That when people are talking about it, it's when it's airing weekly and immediately afterwards, and that people are not necessarily going to binge the whole show in like 2 days just to talk about it for the season. I really want to watch this. It's by legendary director Shinichiro Watanabe, who did Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo.
Yeah.
And the character designs are amazing. The setup of it looks really interesting. It's about 2 musicians who want to create music in a world where all music is generated by AI. And I think they're also on Mars.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
And apparently they have like they have like actual singing in them and like actual, and oh my god, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
But we can't watch it legally.
Not yet.
Because Netflix doesn't understand how anime works. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly might just be worth waiting for the season to end and then just watching it all and then doing an entire episode on it.
Okay.
Because I think that's our best bet. Because it looks like it might be something special, and it looks like the reception to it has been quite positive. And I don't want to abandon it just because
I don't
Netflix
want to abandon it either. Yeah, I've been looking forward to the show.
How anime works, yeah. But yeah, I mean that's the only thing that we didn't really get to watch that we really wanted to. Yeah. So let's get into stuff that I watched.
That you watched and I did not. This time you take the front runner.
Yeah, because I had a little bit of extra time amongst all my dying. Because okay, hang on. One of my classes has assigned so much reading. It is actually ridiculous. It's not even my capstone class, but for one of the days that she wanted us to read something like 160 pages in like 2 days.
Bro.
Which is like doable, but pretty rough. And then also in that same week we had to watch 2 movies, and it was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I managed to find some extra time when everyone was asleep and I was awake.
And you just binged JoJo's and this.
Yeah, while I was binging JoJo's. So I watched Joshikausei, which is the show about 3 girls, and it's a short form 3-minute format show about 3 girls doing whatever. It's just like 1 or 2 visual gags because there's no dialogue. And that's the conceit of the show. Okay. It's pretty cute. There is it is how do I say this? It is meant to be titillating a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Because the first episode that it starts off with is about one of the girls' thighs.
Yeah.
And her name I think is like Futomomoki or something, and the pun being Futomomo means thighs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely like it's a little bit male gazy, but other than that, like it's honestly pretty, like it's not like super sleazy or anything. It's just a little bit like lingering shots on butts and thighs.
Right.
You know, your sort of standard anime fare. It's honestly like not too bad. I thought it was pretty cute and funny. Okay. One of the gag for episode 3 is actually especially really funny. It's executed really well. Because a lot of them is, you know, when you don't have dialogue, you know, you don't get to do like filler stuff necessarily. It's a lot easier to sort of condense your thing. I think it's originally like a yonkoma. I think it's like a 4-panel comic, which would make sense. But yeah, I mean, it's only 3 minutes. There's no dialogue. I would watch it. I might watch the rest of it.
Okay.
I watched Isekai Quartet, which is the crossover show where they use the chibi versions of the characters of Konosuba, Overlord, ReZero, and for some reason the Saga of Tanya the Evil. I don't know why that one's specific. I think I think I do know why, because I think that they're all shows that have been done by like they have this little like short form chibi version, gag version of the shows, and I think the same staff that did all of those, I don't remember which company does it, but I think the staff that does all of those did shows for all of those, and so they decided to cross them over. Okay. I mean, you will like it if you like any of the other shows, but especially Konosuba, because it is it's definitely, it's meant to be funny, so there's a little bit of that. It's very Konosuba for sure.
Right. Yeah.
It's not as over the top as Konosuba is, but it's still funny.
Okay.
I mean, if you like that sort of thing, you can for sure watch it.
If you like isekais as much as Soup.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch any more of this show, mind you. But that's just because I have limited time, and I mean
But you're all caught up on JoJo's. You have to fill that JoJo void with something.
I gotta read the manga, bud.
Okay, right. Never mind.
The next one I watched was Hitoribocchi Something Something Life, or Hitoribocchi no Maru Maru Seikatsu. Fun fact, it is actually, so it means something something. Maru Maru is the, Maru is the word for circle, and that's the thing that they use for omissions in Japan. Like when you censor something, you put circles in it. So it also implies like murmuring. So it's like Hitoribocchi Something Life. I was surprised at how much I actually liked this show. It is one of those, there's like one central conceit to it. It's kind of slice of life-y. It's sort of a gag comedy, but it's really cute. The animation is really like solid. It's very clean and smooth. It is surprisingly dynamic for something that actually doesn't have a huge range of motion. But the what it does have is executed really well. It's very cute. It's charming. It's actually funny. Like it is legitimately funny because it is about a girl who is so socially awkward she can't like talk to people. And it's about her trying to make friends in middle school because she just graduated elementary school, and her only friend decided, I'm not going to be friends with you again until you make friends with all of the friends and all of the people in your class.
Bro.
Which is like, woof.
That's tough love, man.
That's tough love. That's big tough love. But it's really funny because I think the visual humor of it is really good. Like the timing of the jokes is like solid, and it's not like mean spirited, and it's also like, thank Jesus, it's also not like okay, so these are middle school girls.
Okay.
And it is like there are a lot of very small details that make it feel more accurate to that in a way that's not like, oh, look at these middle school girls, look at how sexy they are, which is like makes you want to die. But like there are a lot of like really small details about the character designs that feel like they inform about that, because it's the main character, her blazer, like her jacket is like just a little bit too big, and her skirt is like just a little bit too long. So it's like it's like it's little details like that. Like I mean, I noticed that the camera shots of it are very much like different from something like Joshikausei, which are a little bit more like titillating, which is good because they're middle schoolers. And if that wasn't the case, I would hate this immensely. but you know, because it's not, it's actually really, really charming and cute. And there's this gag where she just flops onto the ground. Like her whole face just like hits the ground. She goes whop. It's good.
Great.
If you need something funny to watch, something lighthearted, and you want something a little bit faster than Senryuu Shoujo, but I think it's a little bit more substantial than Senryuu Shoujo is. Okay. I would highly recommend it, honestly. I wasn't expecting to like it because normally I feel like right now I'm in a period where I'm not. I don't really want to watch a lot of slice of life stuff necessarily. Like I'm kind of okay with skipping most of these, but this is actually really cute, and I might continue to keep up with it. And then the last one I watched. The last one I watched.
The one that will send you to Satan's embrace.
I watched The Helpful Fox Senko-san. And this is Doga Kobo's seasonal lollybait show. Yeah. Because brought to you by the studio that brought you such brilliant classics as the one where the maid is a huge lolicon, or It's Okay to Be a Lolicon if you're a college woman lusting after your little sister's friend in 5th grade. Okay, I despise the things that this studio makes sometimes, because they also made Nozaki-kun, which is good, and the cheerleading anime where one of the characters actually has a coming out scene, which is also decent for at least having that be a part of it. But there's a weird jumble of things here, because then on the other end of the spectrum, like, this show is it's the studio that brought you the anime adaptation of Yuru Yuri, which makes sense for what they're making now, but I feel like they're maybe like treading a little bit too far along that line. It is uncomfortable, I think. Because I want to like this show because the actual components of the show are quite decent most of the time. There is so it is about basically the rehabilitation, sort of the healing process of an overworked salaryman, which is fine because Japan has a really big problem with this, where you know, it works its workers to death basically, and the crushing force of capitalism is going to come for all of us. And sometimes you just sometimes you really just need to relax and it. Okay, if this was any other show, if the conceit was anything else, I think it would be quite a wholesome show, because it is about being pampered and taken care of, and that there's another conversation to be had here about labor, but you know, that's not something I'm going to go into right now. But because the conceit of it is that the person who is taking care of this like 30-plus-year-old salaryman is an 800-year-old fox girl who looks about 12 to 14, that's what makes it really uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, if this was a father-daughter sort of conceit, if this was a, like, this is my 14-year-old daughter who has learned to cook so that me, a single father, can have a little bit of relaxation, that would be a very wholesome setup. That would be a really nice show. Like
Sweetness and Lightning kind of setup, you know?
Right.
Like, it would be that kind of wholesome.
Reverse Sweetness and Lightning. If this show was about an adult human being, or fox, or whatever, if this was about a person who looks like an adult taking care of a person, like, that would just be, I mean, that would just be what anime was like in, like, the 90s, like, with, like, stuff like, you know, Oh My Goddess or whatever, right? Yeah. It would just be a wholesome version of that instead of a harem, and that would be fine too, I feel like. I mean, there's another conversation to be had here about, like, feminized labor and housework, but different conversation. But because they decided to go with this, they're just like, well, she obviously looks 14. but why?
Yeah.
Like, there's only one reason why, and you know why.
Yeah.
And it's just okay, there is a scene in the latter half of the first episode where he's just like, can I pet your tail? And of course they have to turn it into the sort of gag where it's like, no, I'm ticklish and it's gonna make me make noises with my mouth. And it was maybe the most uncomfortable 4 minutes of my life.
Oh my god.
As I had to watch this like grown man like touch this fluffy tail, which is like in and of itself not necessarily like an uncomfortable sequence,
right?
Because like you know, it's like petting your cat, but because like there's the whole thing about like it's like there's no reason it has to be like this, but because you've decided to make your little girl character make very uncomfortable noises as he touches the tail, what am I supposed to think about this? Like, where do you want me to go with this? Oh, yes.
Like, you know, like
blushing, breathing,
and,
squirming.
Yup.
It is the whole 9 yards of uncomfortable. And if this was, and like, you know, obviously, putting everything aside, if this was an adult looking fox girl, right? That would be more wish fulfillment and sort of like, I guess, ecchi than it would be just plain uncomfortable.
Right.
And at least that's another conversation that I could like have. But
right.
Because it is like this,
yeah,
I can't. And it's like, I wish you hadn't made the show like this, because otherwise it would be quite wholesome and like a nice sort of wind down show where like there's a sequence at the end of the show where she addresses you directly and like helps you calm down by like talking to you or whatever. And like, I mean, personally, I'm not into that sort of thing, like the like weird pillow boy talking genre of anime. But I feel like that could be legitimately helpful for certain people who really just kind of need to hear that in their lives.
Yeah.
But she just didn't have to look 14. Or at the very least, it's a confluence of things that they just, if you changed any one part of it, it would be like leagues better. And I don't like the fact that this is like where we're at, where this is what they have to do, and that like this is what I have to look at with my eyes, and like we're gonna have a whole debate about fiction versus reality again, even though like I just don't want the discourse. It's, I don't know. This is the show that you will watch at your own peril if you're like me. Or if you're not like me and you've just decided to rebuke everything that I've said, then I'm not going to get to you anyway. Like, nothing I say will dissuade you from watching this show. Like, the act of watching the show itself is not exploitative, but the fact that the show exists in its current form is a little uncomfortable. Like, it is undeniably uncomfortable.
Well, thanks, Soup, for putting yourself in peril.
I know, I did it so you didn't have to, because if you watched this, you would have died.
Like, considering how uncomfortable I am with just Sarazanmai, like, I know I would be deceased if I watched any of the show.
You would instantly perish. I know it. Okay. That was my thing. That's all the stuff I
Thanks,
watched that
man.
you didn't watch. I watched Senko-san, so you didn't have to.
Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a level of disbelief, like a suspension of disbelief.
Sure.
That you can have if you just think of it as anime, but
right. Like a layer of removal kind of thing.
Right, but like the fact that you have to do that in the first place is a little bit like oof. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, you will know if this is something that you will want to watch. I guarantee it.
Right, like based on the premise alone, you will know. And then
you'll know.
When you watch it, then you'll definitely know.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm not excusing it, but at least it's not like he's an explicit lolicon.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right? Because 2 of the shows that Doga Kobo has made in the past couple seasons have explicitly been about that. And not like in a subversive, like, don't be weird way. It's like literally like a what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
And I feel like there was something else I wanted to say about this. But probably, I guess I've forgotten it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Senko-san, huh? Senko-san, huh?
I think we're good.
I think
we've done well today,
good.
You know?
Yeah. I'm good. That's all the stuff we watched for the season.
Yay!
We'll get back to you at the end of the season to tell you what we kept up with. If we didn't mention anything, it's because we didn't watch it, and we have a process by which we choose what to watch because we don't have infinite time. And that process is we just look at the descriptions, watch the trailers, and then scream.
Yeah, it's a quite good vetting process.
It's quite a good vetting process. It's true. So yeah, what are you gonna be up to? Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch and Tumblr and all that at SwanDrawn. I am also on Instagram at swan.drawn. I will be working on commissions that I got during the convention, so if you want to see stuff and stuffs, come on over, and that's what I'll be working on for the next couple weeks. What about you, buddy?
You can find me on all places at Literal Soup. This week, I will be. I've signed up for graduation and commencement, and I've taken care of all the logistical stuff.
Yes.
So now I just have to figure out, or I don't have to figure anything out. I just have to survive the quarter, which I think I can get a handle on. I just need to sort of take the bull by the horns.
You can do it.
Yeah, which is a little hard when your friend from Seattle is down for the weekend and you want to hang out. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I probably won't be up to like too much more than what I've already been up to. I'll probably just continue reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't think I will be up to very much more than what I've already been up to for the past couple weeks. I'll probably continue reading JoJo's. I will be playing more Grand Blue Fantasy, which I love. Love that game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm really just sort of looking at how many weeks of school I have left and quaking in absolute terror. Because I have zero idea what is happening. And I guess I have to start putting together a resume and applying for jobs.
Bro!
And that is a terrifying prospect.
Bro. It is time.
So yeah, at the very least, I have like a couple months after school ends that I can dedicate to job hunting because my lease doesn't end until August. So I have a little bit of time that I can kind of excuse away by living here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, aside from the sort of existential terror of the job market, I am that's kind of it. That's actually I'm just gonna drown myself in JoJo's so I can not think about anything else.
That's a good way to embrace JoJo's.
Yeah, I don't remember what our ending was. We are Majima Construction Company.
Yes. Oh my god! Again, you forget.
Here, I'm gonna look it up. We're gonna take 2.
I'll link you right now.
それが我らゴロマジマ伝説 No, hold on, I love this.
Okay.
Majima, 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 Gensetsu.
In your gravelly
Incredible.
allergy voice.
Yep. I want the slow jazz version. Boom, 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 boom. Majima, 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 Gensetsu.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
また明日ね。